Hey there, eh? It's your friendly neighborhood British comedian here, ready to dive into a topic that's about as fun as a root canal, the United States-Canada trade war. Now I know what you're thinking. Trade war? That sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry. But trust me, there's more to this story than meets the eye. The United States-Canada trade war. It's a tale of two nations that have been best buds for centuries, suddenly finding themselves at odds over tariffs and trade policies. The United States and Canada go way back, like that awkward family reunion where everyone pretends to remember your name. But buckle up, Buttercup, because this is important stuff. We're talking centuries of shared history, from early fur trading to fighting side by side in wars. Picture this, it's the 1600s, and European settlers are just starting to make their way to North America. The fur trade becomes the backbone of the economy, with trappers and traders crisscrossing the border that would eventually become the United States and Canada. Fast forward a few centuries, and these two countries are still working together, whether it's on the battlefield or in the boardroom. Over time, this relationship blossomed into something truly special. And let's not forget the time-honored tradition of Canadians coming down here to escape the cold and start successful comedy careers. From John Candy to Jim Carrey, the list goes on. It's like Canada is our funny, frostbitten cousin who always knows how to make us laugh. Over time, this relationship blossomed into something truly special, the largest bilateral trading partnership in the world. The largest bilateral trading partnership in the world. That's right, folks, more goods cross the United States-Canada border than any other border on this planet. We're talking billions of dollars in trade every single day. It's like a never-ending game of economic ping-pong with goods and services bouncing back and forth across the border. That's right, folks, more goods cross the United States-Canada border than any other border on this planet. And it's not just about the money. This trade relationship supports millions of jobs on both sides of the border. From auto workers in Detroit to farmers in Saskatchewan, countless livelihoods depend on the smooth flow of trade between our two nations. Who needs a wall when you've got that kind of economic love fest going on? But like any good relationship, it's not always smooth sailing. There have been bumps in the road, like the recent trade disputes over steel and aluminum tariffs. But despite these challenges, the bond between the United States and Canada remains strong. It's a testament to the resilience and mutual respect that has defined our relationship for centuries. So, the next time you hear about a trade war between the United States and Canada, remember that it's just a small chapter in a much larger story. A story of two nations that have stood by each other through thick and thin, and will continue to do so for generations to come. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on these trade disputes and laugh, just like we do with those awkward family reunions. Because at the end of the day, the bond between the United States and Canada is about more than just trade. It's about shared values, common goals, and a deep-rooted friendship that has stood the test of time. So here's to many more centuries of cooperation, collaboration, and of course comedy. Cheers, huh? Now, some folks might think this whole trade thing is just about Canada sending us delicious maple syrup and us shipping them back cars with questionable gas mileage. And while those are both critical components of this beautiful economic tapestry, it's so much bigger than that. We're talking billions upon billions of dollars in goods and services flowing back and forth every single day. Canadian oil keeps our factories humming, while American technology powers their businesses. It's a symbiotic relationship that benefits both sides, creating jobs and boosting economic growth. Think of it like a delicious plate of poutine. You've got your crispy fries, that's the United States economy, your gooey cheese curds, Canada's natural resources, and that rich, savory gravy, our shared manufacturing prowess. Take one element away, and the whole thing just falls apart. But hold on to your toques, because things are about to get messy. The serene, snowy streets of Canada are about to be caught in the crossfire of a trade war that no one saw coming. Enter stage left, Donald J. Trump, a man who seems to view international trade as some kind of zero-sum game where there can only be one winner. With his characteristic bravado and a penchant for shaking things up, Trump decided to take a hard stance on trade, believing that America had been on the losing end of international deals for far too long. And spoiler alert, he's not exactly rooting for Team Canada. In Trump's world, allies and neighbors are just competitors in disguise, and he was ready to play hardball. Under the guise of national security, because nothing screams national security like Canadian steel, Trump slapped tariffs on a whole bunch of Canadian imports. This move was justified by claiming that the influx of foreign steel and aluminum posed a threat to America's national security, a rationale that left many scratching their heads. Now, tariffs are basically just taxes on imported goods, which makes them more expensive for consumers and businesses. When these tariffs were imposed, the immediate effect was felt in the form of rising prices. Businesses that relied on Canadian steel and aluminum for their products suddenly found themselves facing higher costs, which inevitably trickled down to consumers. Canada, being the polite and reasonable country that it is, initially tried to talk some sense into the United States. Canadian officials, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, engaged in numerous discussions and negotiations, hoping to resolve the issue diplomatically. They emphasized the long-standing friendship and economic partnership between the two nations, arguing that the tariffs were unnecessary and harmful. But when that didn't work, they did what any self-respecting nation would do. They retaliated with tariffs of their own. Canada imposed tariffs on a range of American goods, from steel and aluminum to agricultural products and consumer goods. This tit-for-tat response was aimed at putting pressure on the U.S. to reconsider its stance, and just like that, a full-blown trade war was underway. The economic repercussions were swift and far-reaching. Trade between the two countries became more complicated and costly, affecting industries on both sides of the border. Businesses had to navigate the new landscape of tariffs, adjusting their supply chains and pricing strategies to cope with the increased costs. Consumers, too, felt the pinch as prices for everyday goods began to rise. The trade war also had broader implications for the global economy, as other countries watched closely and considered their own responses to the escalating tensions. The ripple effects of this trade conflict were felt far beyond North America, highlighting the interconnectedness of the modern global economy. As the trade war dragged on, it became clear that there were no easy solutions. Both sides dug in their heels, unwilling to back down and lose face. The situation became a test of wills, with each country trying to outlast the other. In the end, the trade war served as a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges of international trade in the 21st century. It underscored the importance of diplomacy, negotiation, and cooperation in resolving disputes and maintaining economic stability. And while the tariffs may have sparked a war, they also highlighted the need for a more nuanced and thoughtful approach to global trade relations. Now I know what you're thinking. John, this all sounds very complicated and boring. And honestly, I get it. Trade wars, tariffs, and economic policies aren't exactly the most thrilling topics to dive into. But bear with me for a moment, because understanding this issue is crucial. Can't we just go back to talking about poutine? Ah, the simple joys of life, right? A plate of delicious poutine, friends gathered around, laughter filling the air. It's a comforting thought, especially when the world seems so complicated, and trust me, I wish we could. I wish we could focus on the lighter, happier things. But sometimes we need to confront the harsh realities to truly appreciate those moments of joy. But the reality is, this trade war has real-world consequences for real people. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet or headlines in the news. It's about factories shutting down, store shelves going empty, and communities struggling to stay afloat. Businesses on both sides of the border are feeling the pinch. Imagine walking past a once thriving factory, now with a for sale sign out front. Or seeing office spaces that used to buzz with activity now eerily quiet with for lease signs. American companies that rely on Canadian suppliers are facing higher costs. And it's not just a minor inconvenience. These increased costs ripple through the entire supply chain, forcing them to raise prices or cut jobs. In boardrooms across the country, tough decisions are being made. Do they pass the costs on to consumers, risking losing customers? Or do they cut jobs, impacting families and communities? Canadian businesses that export to the United States are seeing their products become less competitive. And it's not just about losing a few sales. It's about entire business models being upended, leading to lost sales and layoffs. It's a lose-lose situation where no one comes out ahead. Workers are sent home unsure of when or if they'll return. Store shelves remain empty, a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle. And the longer this trade war drags on, the more entrenched these problems become. Time is not on our side. Every day that passes without resolution means more damage, more uncertainty. The more damage it will inflict. Look around at the crumbling infrastructure, the abandoned industrial areas. These are the visible scars of an economic battle that shows no signs of ending. We're talking about people's livelihoods here, their dreams, their futures. Families sit around the dinner table, worry etched on their faces, wondering how they'll make ends meet. Their ability to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. It's about parents trying to provide for their children, making tough choices at the grocery store, and hoping they can keep their homes. This isn't some abstract economic debate, it's a very real and pressing issue. Economists and business leaders can argue all they want, but the impact is felt on the ground, in the lives of everyday people. It's about real lives being impacted. It's about the collective anxiety of a community, the uncertainty of what tomorrow will bring. It's about looking out the window and wondering what the future holds. And while we may not have all the answers, it's important to stay informed and engaged. Because at the end of the day, it's about ensuring a better future for everyone, from the children playing in the park to the elderly couple walking hand in hand. We need to come together, as communities, as nations, to find solutions. Whether it's through community events, volunteering, or simply staying informed, every action counts. Because despite the challenges, there's always hope. A new day brings new opportunities, and together we can navigate these tough times and emerge stronger. So let's stay hopeful, stay engaged, and remember that while the pain is real, so is our collective strength and resilience.